Councillors, the time is now 6:30 and I declare the meeting open. I advise the public that this meeting is being webcast and members of the gallery may have their voice and image captured. By attending, you consent to being captured, recorded and webcast. Any statements made by individual persons in the course of this meeting and the statements of those individuals are not of council. You should refrain from making any defamatory remarks or making comments about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any statements made by individuals during the course of this meeting. In the event of an emergency or the fire alarm sounding, please remain calm and wait for instructions from the Acting General Manager and Council officers. If we need to evacuate the building, Council's emergency muster points during Council meetings is in the lower car park. In the event of a medical emergency, please alert Council staff for assistance. Council acknowledges the Wanneroo peoples as the traditional custodians of this land that we're meeting on today. We pay our respect to elders past, present and future, and I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples that are here today. We also acknowledge the Wabakal people to the east and the Darkinjung people to the south and other Aboriginal peoples who now live within the Cessnock local government area. We'll now have the prayer, which will be conducted by Christopher Hawkins from New Gokula Farm. Christopher? Would you like to stand? We'll all stand? Yeah, all stand. Sure.
Okay, respected councillors, very much appreciate the privilege to come here and offer the prayer to inaugurate the meeting here. So I'd like to recite a prayer from an ancient saint who said, "Let there be all good fortune for the universe, let all envious persons be pacified, let everyone engage in the loving service of Lord Krishna, Allah, Jehovah Christ, for then everyone will think of the good fortune of each other. Sarva Sukham Bhuvantu, let everyone be happy." So as they say in the child hymns we used to learn, all creatures, all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. So we invoke this spirit of love and respect. We appreciate the values of the council in integrity and commitment, and we support that and wish you all blessings as well. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Christopher. Now, we have Councillor Madden who's looking to join via audio visual link. So before we can continue, could I have someone to move that way? Councillor Pascoe, seconded. Councillor Pomorski, all in favour? It's unanimous. Just give us a thumbs up if you can hear us, Councillor. Thanks. We have 2 requests for leave of absences tonight. Oh, sorry, my apologies. We got 2 apologies tonight, not leave of absence. So for Councillor Grine and Councillor Hill. So could I have someone to move that way? Councillor Lee, seconded Councillor Pomorski, all in favour? It's unanimous. Got confirmation of previous minutes. Someone moving? Councillor Lee, seconded. Councillor Harrington, all in favour? It's unanimous. Any disclosures of interest? No disclosures of interest. No petitions. Sorry, Councillor Jerd.
You're a bit quick there. So report number PE 14/2025, the DA for the development out on Tulga Road, Lovedale. I put in a submission as a resident, didn't realise it would affect voting on the matter. So I will declare a pecuniary interest for that reason, and I will leave the chamber and take note to part in the voting. Could I just ask the director to just explain that so the residents know, so it's not just me explaining why I can't vote on the matter, please?
Director.
Thank you, Councillor Jerd, through you, Mr Mayor. The Office of Local Government Advice is where a councillor as an individual lodges submission on a development application, and they are precluded from deciding at the chamber. It gives us the opportunity for probity and transparency in decision making. So it's following sound probity practice. So thank you.
Yes, just further commentary from the director.
Thank
Corporate.
you. Councillor Jerd, I note that you declared a pecuniary interest. I believe it should be a non-pecuniary significant conflict. Non-pecuniary significant conflict.
No further disclosures. No petitions. Okay, we did have speakers lined up for tonight, but we'll get to that matter. So we have no speakers anymore. We will address that item. Before we do, we'll go on to Englobo voting list. If I could have someone speaking. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving that having read and considered the reports in the agenda related to items CC 28, 2025, CC 31, 2025, CC 34, 2025, CC 37, 2025, and CC 38, 2025, Council adopt the recommendations as printed in the business papers for those items.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Can I have someone moving that way? Sorry, second, Councillor Mason. All in favour? It's unanimous. Okay, I have mayoral minutes. So MM3. Sorry, just cut out. Mayoral minutes, MM3/2025. This is with regards to vacancy in Civic office, the resignation of Councillor J. Suvaal. I'll read the recommendation as noted. That Council note the vacancy in Civic office and that the New South Wales Electoral Commission is currently conducting a countback process to fill the casual vacancy in Ward A. So, for the benefit of everyone watching and reading at home, or watching at home and listening at home, so Councillor and former Mayor J. Suvaal formally advised the General Manager of his resignation from Council on Friday the 6th June 2025. Mr. Suvaal indicated that this was not a decision taken lightly and that employment and family commitments that he was unable to commit the time necessary to the role of councillor. Just to go through the countback process, so council staff are now liaising with the New South Wales Electoral Commission to progress the countback process. Council unanimously resolved in October that should a councillor resign in the first 18 months of this term, a countback election would take place. So where it stands right now, a countback process does not require voters of Ward A to return to the polls, and we have avoided a costly by-election, so that's not required. The New South Wales Electoral Commission will contact all unelected Ward A candidates to confirm their interest in being elected to council. If there is only one eligible candidate, that candidate is elected. If there are multiple eligible candidates, a countback election is conducted based on votes from the election in Ward A in September 2024. And there's a link there that is accessible, which you can obtain via council's websites. On behalf of councillors and staff, I want to acknowledge Councillor Suvaal's contributions. Public life isn't easy at the best of times, you know, and despite differences in opinions from time to time, I just want to convey and pay my respect for the time that he actually spent on council. But 8 years in public service is a long time, and he should be acknowledged and congratulated for that as such. And we wish him all the best. Now, there is a statement there from Councillor Suvaal, which that is available on Council's website if you'd like to go through and read it, anyone watching or listening from home. But yes, we do wish Mr. Suvaal well in the future in whichever direction that takes him. So, any debate or discussion Councillor Pomolsky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would just like to acknowledge and commend Councillor Suvaal for his leadership and dedication to Cessnock LGA. From the very beginning in 2016, Jay brought with him a clear vision to see our region grow, thrive, and be a place where every resident feels heard, valued, and supported. In his second term, he was elected as Mayor by the people of Cessnock, a true testament to the trust and respect our community placed in him. Under Jay's leadership as Mayor, we saw the largest capital works program in our city's history invested into roads, pathways, community parks, and recreational spaces. He understood the pressures that came along with being one of the fastest growing regions in New South Wales, and he met those challenges head on. Jay didn't shy away from the tough conversations. He was strategic, collaborative, and above all, community focused. He led with heart, integrity, and a deep respect for the people of Cessnock. Whether it was advocating for fair and accessible services, welcoming new citizens, or simply listening to community concerns at local events, Jay showed up. Today, as we mark the end of Jay Suvaal's term as councillor, we also celebrate the legacy he leaves behind, a legacy of growth, improvement, and service. While his time in council is concluding, the impact of his leadership will continue to benefit our city for many years to come. On behalf of the community, thank you, Jay, for your commitment, your passion, and your unwavering dedication to Cessnock. We wish you all the very best in your next chapter.
Thank you, Councillor Pomolsky. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Tough act to follow there. But I'd also like to take a moment tonight and just recognise and thank Jay, who's given a huge amount of time and energy and heart into our community as a councillor and as a mayor. He was the most experienced councillor that we had in this chamber. So certainly a period of change for Cessnock City. He's officially, I think many of us knew this day was probably coming, but it's still a big moment. He's been, as I said, the most experienced councillor that was in this chamber. He's been a massive part of this community for a long time and will continue to be a strong community member. I don't think there's much more that I can say that Councillor Pomolsky hasn't already said. So to Jay, I just want to say thank you for your leadership and your guidance. To me personally, as a fresh councillor on their first term, it's been invaluable. He's certainly earned a bit of a rest, but I'm sure with a young family and a new, very busy role in his professional life that he won't be able to sit still for too long. So all the best for what's next, and thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Any further discussion? We'll now put the recommendation forward for a vote. All in favour? It's unanimous. Motions of urgency. We've got no motions of urgency, none's been submitted. Now we'll move on to general business, items to be discussed. So we do have two matters to discuss in a confidential session. So the first one being report NI2/2025. That's the notice of intention to deal with matters in confidential session. Report CC39/2025. The tender T 2025-05 expression of interest, former Richmond Main Colliery site, stage 2. And then we also have, sorry? Yes, yep. And then the second item is Merrill minutes, so MM4, it's a late addition. So the subject being that the personnel matter relating to the General Manager's contract of employment, that this matter is considered to be confidential under Section 10A(2)(a) of the Local Government Act, as it deals with personnel matters concerning particular individuals. So could I have someone moving that way for Councillor Pascoe, seconded Councillor Jerd, all in favour? Okay, it's unanimous. Now, moving on, so we have had a last minute retraction of report PE 14/2025, and that's with regards to Talga Road, the demolition and construction of a new site. I understand there's been an emergency and there's been a request to have this matter deferred, so it'd be a procedural motion to defer. So could I have someone to move So moving to defer, so Councillor King, seconded Councillor Lee. So this will be for the next available meeting, whatever that could be, within a month or two, whenever the report comes back. Do you have any further commentary, Director, that you'd like to make on that matter? Or, yep, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have a site inspection, and there are a number of questions that councillors were going to forward. So if you can do that relatively quickly, we'll undertake to get some feedback from the applicant and get a supplementary report back for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Director. So we'll now take a vote for deferring the matter. All in favour? It's unanimous. Yep. Councillor Jode, yep. Okay, well, we'll keep moving. So report P15/2025. So this is exhibition of draft housing theme review discussion paper. So can I have someone to move that way? Councillor Lee, seconded Councillor Palmowski. Discussion. Councillor Joe, just while you stepped out, we're discussing the draft housing theme review. Just in time. Councillor Joe.
Thank you. I'm glad I didn't miss this one because I actually had a few things I wanted to say. Okay, make sure I'm on the right one. Okay. I don't believe most residents know how a DA is assessed to determine what is allowed with zoning, type of development, operating hours, etc. But council use documents created by the government and local councils, like the Cessnock Local Environmental Plan, known as the CLEP, and the Development Control Plan, known as the DCP. A government document like the Hunter Regional Planning Document 2041, for example. In these documents, there is guidelines for what is allowed to be developed in these areas and what restrictions they might have. And when council are determining a DA, they will reference these documents, such as this. The determination decision was reached for the following reasons. The proposed development subject to the recommended conditions is consistent with the objectives of the Cessnock Local Environment Plan 2011, meaning it follows the guidelines of the CLEP. The proposed development is subject to the recommended conditions consistent with the objectives of the Cessnock Development Control Plan, and variations to prescribed standards within this plan have been adequately addressed, meaning that the recommended conditions on the DA are in line with the DCP and any variations have been sorted. Any issues raised in the submissions have been taken into account in the assessment report where appropriate conditions of consent have been imposed on the determination. Council has given due consideration to community views when making the decision to determine the application. Meaning, thank you for your submission. We've taken it on board what you've said and compared it to these documents, and we'll use the objectives in these reports to approve the DA anyway, and maybe put some conditions of consent onto the DA. The point I'm making is these documents should reflect the community, what they find appropriate development of the buildings, in what zoning, with operating hours, etc. Yet these documents are shaped more from the government than what they are from the locals living in the effects of the DA developments. Due to this, as this is step 1 of maybe 10, I'd like to defer the report, forgot about that, so that us councillors can go over it and shape it to reflect the residents we represent, and then put it out to the public to write a submission in for it. As remember, these is extremely important. These documents can stop you from developing or be a neighbour to a development and have no way of stopping or getting the development to suit the area better. As these documents want infill housing and not just a little, you might have 3 neighbours currently, which could turn into 6. It's just a lot to think about, and I'd like to shape it a little bit better.
Thank you, Councillor Joe. Just before we move on, so you're proposing an amendment to defer?
Yeah, because I just want to have a little bit more input on it to make sure it does reflect Cessnock residents.
Okay. So procedural motion to defer. You do want to, Director?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Judd, the intention of this is to get the feedback from the community at this higher level, and then there'll be a series of other documents that no doubt we'll need to talk with the councillors about as to how it might look when you move it into those planning instruments, which are the LEP and ultimately the DCP, we're a reasonable time frame away from that. I think there will be opportunities for that discussion. The idea here is based on all of those statements and the state government directives. These are the questions we're asking the community. Can you give us your feedback? We'll get that feedback and then we'll have those sessions and more briefings with the councillors about what that feedback looks like with respect to, in this case, housing and the types of housing.
Yep.
Then there'll be the conversation about where there's a similar document being drafted in relation to employment lands, in relation to rural lands, in relation to commercial lands. We'll all follow that same process of really trying to entice conversation with the community that will then feed back to the councillors with reports back. That will ultimately get us to a point where changes may be or may not be recommended to housing strategies specifically, which relate to LEPs and DCPs. So
maybe then, maybe not a deferral, but maybe make sure that we do a workshop to
Happy to do
really have input. Because my biggest concern is, like I've just found out tonight, if I, as a resident, put in a submission, then I do lose my chance to vote on the matter or discuss the matter in a council chamber. So I'm just trying to work out the best possible way to make sure that these documents reflect our area and not just sort of handed down from above, like where a state or federal decide what we're going to do for our area. I want to make sure that the community here have input. So if you think this stage one would be better to continue, and then maybe if I put up a procedural motion to add that we, when this comes back, that we do a full-on workshop on it.
Yep.
Would that be okay?
there will be, sorry to talk
Yep.
over, as part of that exhibition, there'll be various sessions, drop-ins, as well as specific, call them town hall meetings for want of a phrase, because there are specific locations that we want to get that local community's conversations and feedback on as well. So there'll be more of that, but happy to run a workshop for the councillors on
so
the
if we
return.
could put a dot point 3 of like to would it need to be
So
a dot point?
just before we, so dot point 3, so procedural motion to put a dot point 3 in.
Yeah, rather than
are you happy?
deferral. Yeah. Amendment. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, amendment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you happy for an amendment to go in for a, so a workshop? Is
Yes,
that
a
what you're,
workshop. So it comes back and we have a workshop with us councillors to make sure that we get to basically get an opportunity to really, you know, address anything that maybe residents have come to us about.
so mover and seconder, if you're happy enough, we can move that. Yep, Councillor Lee.
Sorry, I think I would need to read that it's after the feedback from the exhibition period. And then I'm happy with
Does that sit with you, Councillor Pomolsky? Councillor Joe, do you? Okay. So mover and seconder are happy with that. We've got Councillor Harrington.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I just want to strongly suggest to all councillors, if we are going to move this motion to put this discussion paper on exhibition, and remembering it is a discussion paper, we're calling out to the community to gauge their views on changes to make to our LEP and our DCP. I strongly suggest that you rally up and encourage our community to read that document, or you summarise it and explain it to them, because it really is going to shape the way our LGA grows. And previously, my short term in council, I've noticed that community engagement when it comes to policies is very minimal. And I think those in the gallery and those watching at home, please read this strategy, which you'll find in Together Cessnock, discussion paper, because it is an outline of 8 different strategies from the state government to increase housing in our area, some of which I can gladly see would benefit our area, but there are certainly others in there that do not. This document or strategies that have been provided by the state government are a generalisation for all LGAs. So we're not Northern Sydney, we're not Western Sydney, you know, so I think it's really important that we, as Councillor Jerd said, that after the discussion paper goes out and we get feedback from the community and we encourage the community to give us feedback, that we take a good hard look at those 8 strategies and the feedback we've received and select those that suit our area best. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrington. Okay, so we've adopted that into the amendment into this motion. So we'll now put it forward for a vote. All in favour? It's unanimous. Okay, now moving on to report PE 16/2025. This is the draft amendments to Cessnock Development Control Plan Chapter D8 with relation to events. Can I have someone to move that way? Councillor Lee, seconded. Councillor Pascoe, speaking. Councillor Jode.
Thank you, Mayor. Where do I start? I put quite a few questions into council, as I like the concept of this, but I just needed to make sure it is what I thought it was. And I just want to say thanks to the staff for answering my questions, because there was quite a fair few on this item. I ask these questions because as councillors, we're usually the go-to for residents for complaints when it comes to events. It's a hard one because you want events to happen in our LGA, but you also want to look after our community with making sure there is minimal disturbance for residents, be it noise or access to their property, safety for the community attending, and making sure the traffic plan and emergency strategies are in place, and so on. So I just wanted to make sure that this document reflects the community's concerns when they contact council with complaints with non-compliance, that these things are noted and that this document is going to streamline council's processes so that we can continue having events here that benefit the community and don't create massive disturbances to residents around these events. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jode. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Put it forward now for a vote. Those in favour? It's unanimous. Now moving on to report CC 29/2025. It's the minutes of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee, the meeting that was held on the 2nd of May 2025. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Palmalski, seconded. Councillor Pascoe. Discussion? No discussion? Okay, so moving on to report CC 30. Oh, my apologies. Sorry about that. I'm not trying to rush out for Origin. I do apologise. I'm joking. We'll put it now forward for a vote. Those in favour? Councillor Harrington, Jerd, King, Lee, Mason, Palmalski, Pascoe, Watson and Madden. Those against? Councillor Dixon. My apologies. Okay, report number CC 30/2025. It's the adoption of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Community Action Plan 2025 to 2029. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Pascoe, seconded. Councillor Palmalski. Any discussion? No discussion. Put it forward for a vote. Those in favour? Councillor Harrington, Lee, Mason, Palmalski, Pascoe and Watson. Those against? Councillor Dixon, Jerd and King. It's carried. Moving on to the CC 32/2025, the classification of land, lot 900, DP 1278224, 46 Wildflower Circuit in Bellbird. Can I have someone moving? Please, Councillor Harrington, seconded. Councillor Jerd. Speaking, Councillor Jerd.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just a really quick question. I'm sure I read it in the report somewhere, but does this have to be classed as operational? I know
Director.
you said something about it, but I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Thank you, Councillor Jerd. No, it doesn't have to be. However, if it is classified as community land, we would have to develop a plan of management for it and the like. And it would probably be only one of a few drainage easements that are classified as community land. So Classifying it as operational doesn't change the intent, the usage of it. It just allows some of that other stuff that we don't need to do.
So most of our drainage is classified as operational, is
I
it?
would say a very, very high percentage of them. If they're not, they're just ones that have been overlooked in the past.
Yeah, so no plans to sell it?
No,
No, okay.
I don't think anyone wants a drain which has been dedicated
You
to
never
us.
know, some
So-
people might like the
But
water.
no, there is no plans whatsoever to sell it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Harrington, also you. No, Councillor Harrington.
Sorry, Mayor Watton, I did turn my buzzer off. I really just wanted to give a little bit of background for those in the gallery and those maybe watching at home what parcel of land we're talking about. But it's just to do with the development in Bellbird, where the private developer has gifted, I guess, council 1.04 hectares of land for stormwater runoff. This is in Wildflower Circuit, Bellbird, and the use of the land has been determined as primarily for council's operational purposes for drainage, but that was kind of covered. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrington. We'll now put it forward for a vote. Those in favour? It's unanimous. Now moving on to report number CC 33/2025. It's the Local Government's Remuneration Tribunal, the annual fees payable to Mayor and Councillors from the 1st of July 2025 to the 30th of June 2026. Can move that way, Councillor Lee. And yep, so Councillor Lee speaking.
Thank you, Mayor. Hoping to move tonight an alternate motion to that was printed in the business paper. It's on the screen there for those that haven't seen it yet. And that is that Council 1 acknowledges the 2025 determination of the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal for the regional rural category, which permits an increase to councillor and mayoral fees for the 2025-26 financial year. 2, declines to adopt the maximum permissible increase and instead resolves to retain councillor and mayoral fees at the 2024-25 levels, being Mayor $66,800 per annum, councillors $27,050 per annum, and Deputy Mayor's additional fee $1,200. And 3, notes that this decision reflects Council's commitment to fiscal restraint in light of ongoing cost of living pressures affecting the Cessnock community.
Okay, so can I have someone to second that recommendation? Councillor Harrington. Put it in for debate. Oh, sorry, speaking Councillor Lee.
Thank you. So I'd just like to say it's not a reflection on the value of the work that my fellow councillors and yourself as the Mayor perform, but rather a deliberate and principled decision to show restraint in a time where many in our community, as we know, are doing it tough. So if we're asking residents to absorb some of the financial pressures, then I think we as civic leaders should demonstrate that we'll be willing to carry some of that weight as well. The Tribunal's recommendation is just that. At the end of the day, it is a recommendation, and it sets the upper limit. But the final decision lies with us here in this chamber, and I believe the responsible community-minded choice is to hold the line on our fees for the next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Jode.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'm actually really excited to see this because I know last term of council we tried a few times to freeze the payment and keep it down low. So I'm really enjoying this term where we actually have people that are here for the right reasons, which is, to serve the community. Obviously, this is a tough gig, and sometimes it is nice to get the little bit of payment towards it. So it is. But it's really nice to see that everybody here's for the right reasons. We're here for the community, not about money and putting the community first, because like that says, a lot of people in the area at the moment are suffering. So if we can keep the fees down, that would be great.
Thank you, Councillor Joe. Just before we put this forward for a vote, I just want to also commend Councillor Lee, and every councillor I spoke to was of the same mind concerning this, and it does seem like a nominal raise, and it doesn't really, the allowances given don't clearly reflect at all the work that's been done. So you want to reward and compensate people for the work that's been done, which obviously these allowances don't take care of nearly. And I think it further shows to the community that exactly what you mentioned there, Councillor Jerd, we are here because we want to serve our community and see it prosper. And I think it would be, I think it's a good thing to do tonight to freeze this. So just want to make that comment. So we'll now put this forward for a vote. All in favour? It's unanimous. Now moving on to report CC 35/2025. It's the adoption of the IPR framework suite of documents comprising of, number one, the Community Strategic Plan, Together Cessnock 2040. The number two, it's the 2025 to 2029 delivery program incorporating the 25-26 operational plan, budget and revenue policy. Third, resourcing strategy incorporating the long-term financial plan, workforce management plan and asset management strategy. And lastly, the 25-26 fees and charges. So if I could have someone moving, Councillor Lee, someone to second. Yeah, my apologies, Councillor Lee speaking.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have sent, thank you. It's on the screen there now. I'm just wishing to add an additional dot point there. So following under the first dot point, which is the Community Strategic Plan Together Cessnock 2040, adding the dot point underneath, which is 2.3.3, explore opportunities for the construction of the Richmond Vale Rail Trail and additional Shiraz to Shore connections, Hunter Regional Plan 2041.
Okay, someone to second that. Councillor Pamalski. Okay, would you like to speak? Yep, Councillor Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief on that. Just want to note it does, all those projects are listed in other documents, but absent from this one, I've received a number of calls and emails over the last week since the agenda come out highlighting that. Spoken to staff and they were happy to support as well, or to see that be added into this without too much change needed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, my question, and it probably is maybe self-explanatory, but Councillor Lee, by explore opportunities, there's no allocation to the budget for this project. It is just to explore, have it there in case a grant appears that we can apply for, I'm assuming. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jerd.
That was my question I was actually going to ask. The only thing I have an issue with is grants always come with conditions, and they also come with the fact that they're not 100% paying for the development that we're asking for. So when you're starting to put on there, as much as I like the idea of Richmond Vale Rail Trail and the Shiraz to Shore, oh, that's a hard one to get out. We are already committed to so many footpaths. If you look at our operational plan, and we were going over it in our briefing with the footpaths and the amount that added up to, trying to save money, and I just don't think I could vote for this motion, because that's just going to add more pressure to our budget, which I've been told for the last 3 years is great. Now I'm getting told it's not. So to be honest, I don't know how I'm going to actually, to be honest, I do know how I'm going to vote. I'm going to have to vote no, because I don't agree with a lot of these policies that we've put up. I don't think we're in the best financial position. I don't think the operational plan actually suits my opinion and a lot of the residents that have reached out. I really don't agree with, as much as I love footpaths, don't get me wrong, they're brilliant, especially when you're pushing a pram or pushing someone in a wheelchair, but the budget to it is what's driving me nuts. We've got roads falling apart and back streets that are going to fall even further apart with Wallenby Road getting done, that to allocate more money when we don't put enough on roads, this is just a hard one. So yeah, no, I just wanted to put my opinion on there.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jerd. Just to just speak a little bit on the grant matter. Yeah, grants are really tied up to what their purpose is, and it's what's available and what we can actually apply for. And just going to that point, I think it's important that we keep liaising with our state and federal members for additional funding. I think that's the big crux when it comes down to sustainability for councils. When we talk about financial assistance grants that have not been reviewed since the 90s, when they've been split in half, I think these are key things that the public needs to be made aware of. And this is a key matter as we move forward. And, grants are a tricky one because they can be tied up for specific projects, such as could be footpaths, accessibility, disability access. It could be a park. And it's unfortunate, some, I'm not going to speak out of my scope, but a funding deed variation might be possible for some. But however, grants are grants. But I'll leave that thought there for everyone to consider. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to have to vote against this tonight for the reason of that I noticed in the paperwork, Community Strategic Plan and the Delivery Program, that United Nations International Sustainability Development Goals, 17 goals, are in the paperwork. A lot of people might think that's okay, but I actually don't think that's okay. I don't think the United Nations should have any say into what happens in this country. And for that reason, I'll be voting against this tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Harrington.
Thank you. Look, I just have a question, and because we're putting ideas to explore into the delivery program, and I should know this, but I'll ask the directors, is the bypass actually in our delivery program to explore, or any funding or any mention of that?
I'll put it through to Director of Works.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Harrington, could I get some clarification on the bypass? Are you talking about the northern alternate route, or?
Yes, I'm talking about the ones that I've seen on plans from Bellbird through to Wine Country Drive, which I understand the developer is doing it to Mount View Road, but the extension from Mount View Road to Wine Country Drive. And then there was talk of an alternate one going around the back of Aberdare down to Curry. I thought I saw it in one of our future plans.
Yes, so those are noted in the traffic and transport strategy as being a future need. The northern alternate route is currently funded through the federal government for further development. $5 million have been allocated to that, and our teams are progressing with that development work.
Sorry, could you clarify? What part has been funded?
The northern alternate route.
To Mount View Road or to Wine Country?
Through to Wine Country Drive.
Oh, all the way. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrington. Sorry, is there any further questions? No. Okay. Councillor Pascoe.
Thank you, Mayor Wotton. I just sort of had a bit of a question, it's kind of what Councillor Jerd was asking with the 2.33 explore opportunities. Obviously, these sorts of things in my mind wouldn't go ahead unless we had a grant for them. Something of that size, would that come back to council to be approved?
Well, yes, I'll put it through to the Councillor, Director of Works.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor Pascoe. Yes, it would come back through council for a decision-making process.
So adding in just to explore opportunities isn't necessarily saying we will spend money on it?
No, absolutely not. And this project itself is, a state-led, a Hunter JO-led initiative. Council supports the development of it, but the funding is subject to, availability through either the state or federal or other funding mechanisms.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Councillor Jerd.
Just a quick question, because going on from what Councillor Harrington said with the bypass to Aberdare, is that currently actively looking for grant funding?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Jerd, there's no funding allocated for that particular development of that alternate route at this point. So our focus is currently on that northern alternate route, given that we have Bellbird URA progressing, and as Councillor Harrington mentioned, that the developers are committed to doing connection through to Mount View Road. So we've placed a priority on making sure that we have that alternate route developed.
Okay. Is there a way to add it, seeing as we've added the Richmond Vale rail, and the shore to Shiraz, could we add the actively looking for funding for the bypass towards Aberdare? I mean, it's not automatically putting funding to it, it's just putting it there for looking for grants, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look, all due respect, we didn't focus on specific project outcomes because they're identified through our other strategies and plans, i.e. the traffic and transport strategy, which is more specific around those initiatives. The need for being able to fund those is obviously a key important factor, and we've demonstrated or identified where there's funding required to develop those, either in the delivery plan or the operational plan, and whether that be through allocated grant funding or whether it be through general funds. The community strategic plan itself is that higher level strategic outcome which recognises some of the state, federal initiatives and where we support those rather than project specific outcomes.
So if I understand that correctly, because those two projects can be named because of the Hunter Regional Plan, is that right? Yet the bypass, because it's not really something the Hunter Regional Plan wants, you're not willing to be able to put that up there, is that right? Kind of seemed like that.
Sort of. The Hunter Regional Plan has those high regional initiatives in them, and they've been recognised within the CSP. Those documents are supported and recognised within the CSP. Those local specific initiatives, as I mentioned, are highlighted within our own strategic plans and policies that we have.
Wouldn't the traffic study, though, because we had that traffic study that was actually out and that highlighted the need for the bypass over to Aberdare, would that not be enough to then put it on there to look for grant funding?
It's demonstrated within the strategy as being a long-term initiative.
Mm-hmm. Could be a long time before we get a grant for it, though. Okay, I see.
Okay, just quick comment before we move on. Just want to remind councillors that at any time through a notice of motion, that costs have to be justified, but if you want to make an amendment to effectively anything, any governing policy or plan that we have, just be mindful though that it has to, I'm going to use the reference to make sure that it's like a game of Sudoku really, because everything's got to line up and match perfectly, and you move one and the other has to fall in place somewhere. Then you've got restricted funds and unrestricted funds, which I know we had plenty of conversations about, but at any time, a notice of motion can be submitted and considered for that. Did you have any further comment on that? No. Councillor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this discussion is around the proposed amendment, but I thought I'd throw my 5 cents in about the overall motion while we're at it. This suite of documents will pretty much be the legacy of this term of council and how we go about business. So I'd like to express my disappointment in the very little input that councillors actually had towards this, and almost no attempt, in my view, to do any belt tightening exercises, so to speak, to save a bit of coin for the residents before we proceed on going down the track with SRVs in the future. Special rate variations for those that don't know. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for Councillor Lee in relation to your amendment, if I may. Would you be open to including a further amendment at the end of your sentence there, Councillor, subject to final determination by the elected council for either project to progress?
Councillor Lee.
Yeah, thank you. We've already heard from the directors that's what will happen. So yeah, happy for it to be in there.
the reason I'm suggesting the proposal, Mr. Mayor, is I think there could be a perception that if it's included there now, that could be included in future budgets and delivery programs, and that is the will of the elected council, which it may or may not be. So I think including the amendment there, subject to that further condition, just creates clarity that it's not the final will of the elected council.
Okay, so just to be clear, you want to propose an amendment to ensure that down the track we don't commit, but just to clarify though that we wouldn't be committed, you'd have to come back to the elected council regardless, like any further capital spend or capital
Correct.
works.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand your point. So by including it, can I just put the director and then director.
Thank you, Mayor Watton. Hopefully this will help with what the council's aiming to do. By including that in your community strategic plan, I think it's superfluous. You don't need to do it. Your community strategic plan is a very high level document. It's the aspirations of what your community will be. What council is going to do in the next 4-year term is within your delivery program, and it is open to council at any time during that 4-year program to change that delivery program and add in a different project or bring in another project down the level of the goes. We're going to do this project under this grant funding opportunity. So I think whilst the intention is good in what you're proposing, Councillor Mason, I don't think it's needed because it is a really high level. We should be advancing that opportunity with the Shiraz to Shore. It's already covered under the regional plan, so we have to consider those things anyway. It's not saying we're going to go and build it. Yes, we'll look at opportunities for grant funding if we're lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on what your viewpoint may be on the grant, to get it. It would then come back and you would adjust it into your operational planning and delivery program, and that's when the elected council would get another shot at it and go, yes, we're happy to accept the $5 million or the $14 million or whatever it may be to advance that, and then you would add it into what you're going to do in the next 4 years.
So just to clarify, Director, we could in any council meeting we could come forward and elect to amend or vary the delivery program or any of the programs to be able to vary, include or remove it from the plan.
Correct. Under the IP&R legislation and the framework, the idea is that you set what you're going to do for the 4 years and you stick to it. But that doesn't preclude you, if circumstances change, whether it's through a notice of motion or a legislative change or whatever, for amending what your delivery program will be. So you will have opportunities in the future if the elected council so wishes to change something that's in your delivery program. Not necessarily what's in your strategic plan, community strategic plan, because that's a 10-year aspirational type plan. Our community is saying this is what we want our community to look like. And then the 4-year slice is what you guys are going to do under this term of council.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, just sorry to go back to the bypass, but I just want clarification because when I asked clarification from the Director of Works and Infrastructure, when I asked the question initially, your response was that we have funding already allocated to go from the Bellbird North development through to Wine Country Drive. And then I just heard a comment from you that the developer is committed to go to Mount View Road. So from Mount View Road to Wine Country Drive, who's committed to that?
Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Harrington, that's part of the funding arrangement that we have with the federal government. Dan Repicoli was announced at pre-election for us to continue with development beyond the commitment and the requirements of the developer, which is to connect to Mount View Road. We have that money to be able to do that further investigation and development through to Wine Country Drive.
My understanding that commitment from the federal government was for money for plans. I'm talking about the actual construction of the road. No?
No, no. Well, $5 million wouldn't construct the road anyway. But what that funding does do is provide a conceptual layout and demonstrates the impacts, and you are able to undertake environmental assessment exercises so that we can determine what those costs may be. We would have to then seek further funding or opportunities to be able to deliver that.
I guess what I'm trying to, and I'm sure it's quite obvious, point out is that if we are exploring funding options for the recreational bike paths to Newcastle, why are we able to add that we are exploring options to find grant funding to construct that road once that the grant money we've received for plans has already been spent?
With respect to the northern...
To the Bellbird North bypass from Mount View Road to Wine Country Drive.
That would be definitely something we would consider to advocate for once we actually know what those figures are and what the preferred option is, so that we can demonstrate to the community and to council what the best outcome is.
And would we find out what the cost is within the next 4 years?
There's a very good chance we will be able to, because the work to undertake that development exercise would be in the order of 18 months to 2 years.
Just that I know that it's a big want of the community and need for this community for that bypass to be constructed. And if we're making plans for the next 4 years, and I know we don't have the funding for the construction, but we don't have the funding for the footpaths, I would like to make a dot point that we add to explore the opportunities for construction of the bypass from Mount View Road to Wine Country Drive.
Okay.
If Councillor Lee is in agreement.
Councillor Lee? Okay. So we'll add that in.
Oh.
Seconder? Yep, Councillor.
So explore opportunities for the construction of the Bellbird North bypass from Mount View Road to Wine Country Drive. Mount View Road to Wine Country Drive. Which I think is in our traffic and transport strategy.
Okay, just before we move on with the discussion, so I've got Councillor King, you got questions? Yep. Couple of things. So the heavy advocacy has occurred, particularly with the bypass funding just recently. And so last time when the JO went to Canberra, just for everyone's knowledge, we need plans before we can, go for construction. No minister is going to hand out cash unless you've got plans in place. So, actively searching for those. And they are outlined in the transport plan 100%, which when we've gone to advocate, bypass is, just so everyone's aware, bypass is definitely at the top of the list. But I don't disagree with your point, though. It's front and centre. It is a major need of the community. It's something cried out. But I just want to make that clear that things are being actively advocated for. Just while we're on that topic.
Yeah, and I agree, Mayor Watton. I think if it's at the top of our list, then it should be on our delivery program.
Okay, you've got a question, though, Councillor King. Question? Yep.
Just a question to Director for Corporate and Community Service, please. You said that we would be able to change the delivery program via a notice of motion in the future if we so choose. Would you mind just going through that list of documents and tell me which one we would be and which one we won't be able to change moving forward via that same process, please?
Okay, Director.
Essentially, Council can change any of these documents that you so wish. I think the level of detail that we're trying to look and seek to add into the community strategic plan is probably not needed in my own personal viewpoint at this stage. However, I get what councillors are trying to do. But Council as elected body sets the operational budget every year, and it also sets what we're going to do in the 4-year program, which is the delivery program, via an appropriate notice of motion and the like that can have some consideration and input from staff as to what it may or may not look like to try to address and meet what the council law would be trying to achieve with that individual item. So if it's one of us spend $200,000 on this project, we can give you some guidance on what that will mean and what that will, where you might find funding to offset that cost. So that can all happen, and that can certainly come through at any point in time through a valid notice of motion by a councillor. So it's correct that you do get a chance to do this. In 12 months' time, we'll be coming back to you. We're going through the whole operational plan process again, so there'll be another chance for that as a budget type line item. As funding opportunities come forward, that may mean that council has to reassess our various projects and plans that you're going to do. So again, that might necessitate a change to our delivery program over the 4 years. So there is ample opportunities for the elected members moving forward to make adjustments, but they have to be considered adjustments, knowing full well what the implications of that change may be. And it may be that different projects get shuffled up and down, which has occurred in the past. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor King.
Okay, any further discussion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mayor Watton. I had a question to add to Councillor Mason's question to the Director, but the Director answered that. So, yeah, ignore this now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Madden. Okay, we'll now put this forward for a vote. All in favour? Councillor Harrington, okay, Councillor Harrington, Jerd, King, Lee, Mason, Palmowski, Pascoe and Watson. Those against? Councillor Dixon. That's carried. Now moving on to Report CC 36/2025, making the rate 2526. Can I have someone moving that way, moving that forward? Anyway, Councillor Lee, second to Councillor Pascoe. Any discussion, any debate? Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Oh, sorry, I did it again. Put it forward for a vote. All in favour? It's unanimous. Oh, you're voting against it? Okay, so those four is Councillor Dixon, Harrington, King, Lee, Mason, Palmowski, Pascoe, Madden and Watton. Those against? Councillor Jerd. Okay. Now, moving on to Report WI7/2025. It's the Local Traffic Committee meeting held on the 17th of March 25. The items requiring a council decision. Looking to move that. Any councillor to move? Councillor Harrington, seconded Councillor Jerd. Any discussion? Councillor Jerd.
I just wanted to quickly say thanks for bringing this this one to the council, because it was me pointing it out that it wasn't unanimous in the traffic committee. I purely just going to be very short. I'm going to vote against it. I know at the end of the day this is about the traffic signals and all that, and it all meets standard and what it should be, but I just cannot vote for anything that is for the Wallenby Road, as I just can't do it. It's not what I wanted. It's not what a lot of the community wanted, and I wanted what was better for the town, and I still don't believe it's what's better for the town.
Thank you, Councillor Jerd. Any further discussion? No, we'll put it forward for a vote. All in favour? Councillor Harrington, King, Lee, Mason, Palmowski, Pascoe, Madden and Watton. Those against? Councillor Dixon and Councillor Jerd. Now, there was no notice of motions. Moving on to councillor reports. So we've got Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mayor Watton. Friday the 23rd of May, the Black Hill Quarry Community Liaison Group met. The meeting was to be held in Curry as per the normal meeting practice, but due to the significant rain that we experienced during this time, it was instead held online, and there was no subsequent site visits associated with this meeting. Just briefly, with some of the agenda items included, The complete minutes have been sent through to Cessnock City Council. So there was an error in the 2020 and 2021 data, and in the 2022 and 2023 data, which had been resolved. The tonnage calculation for 23 and 24 was incorrect due to the figures being reported incorrectly. 129,000 tonne to Cessnock City Council versus 116,000 tonne in the annual report. Woodbury Civil advised that the coal extraction was not included in the annual report. This has now been amended. Most of the material from this quarry is for the M1 Heather Black Hill Road project. Material is also being supplied to the Belmont desalination project. The quarry is due for closure in June next year. And also the residents asked for a plan on how rehabilitation will proceed once the waste facility starts to operating. And that's about it for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Madden. That was very informative. Is there any other councillors have any reports to mention? All right, I have provided a summary, pretty much customary at this point, monthly. I won't go through everything, just for the sake of time. A couple of things I do want to mention though is on the 11th of June, we had a visit with the Cessnock Correction Centre, which was amazing. I found it quite inspirational to actually visit. So that was attended with Councillor King, Councillor Harrington, Councillor Mason, Councillor Pascoe and Councillor Hill. And it's amazing what they're doing there. They're literally changing the game. And it's a large employer in the area too, over 900 employees across 3 complexes on the same site. And it should be commended, the staff there. The Governor is doing a fantastic job with his team. And yeah, very, very impressive what they're doing out there in terms of therapeutic rehabilitation of prisoners. That was probably now, I guess there's a bit of theme here. The other one I did want to mention, so we had a JO board meeting in Muswellbrook, which was good. A lot of things happening. And again, if there's any questions with these, please reach out. But just for time's sake, I did want to mention the quarterly meeting that was brought up by resolution. Now, this was from notice of motion from Councillor King. I don't know if you wanted to touch on this. It's in my report, but okay. So all 3 levels of government were there represented, which was fantastic. So Dan Rapicoli, federal member, Clayton Barr, state member, and councillors. So look, it's very. It's great to be all on the same page, all levels of government, and how we can best support our community. The police are doing a fantastic job. There's things there I obviously can't report on because I'll be breaking confidentiality, but I will say they're doing a fantastic job, and I just want to, commend them. So this is the 2nd meeting, and we will continue to have those quarterly. So fantastic effort by everyone involved there. So if there's any further questions on those, please let me know. So there's nothing else, no reports. So we'll now need to move into a confidential session to discuss those 2 items that were broached before. So could I have someone to move? Councillor Pascoe, seconded Councillor Jerd. All in favour? It's unanimous. Okay, so if we could just ask the members of the gallery Okay, so just to confirm, to come back into open session, Councillor Lee moved, Councillor King seconded, and then it was unanimous coming back into open session. So what was discussed in confidential session was mayoral minutes MM4/2025, the subject being personnel matter relating to the General Manager's contract of employment. The recommendations were proposed. Number one, the Council notes the confidential correspondence from Ken Liddell, General Manager, to Councillor Watton, Mayor, dated 17th of June 2025, and accepts their resignation as General Manager of Cessnock City Council with effect on and from the 17th of July 2025. Point two, that Council conveys its sincere thanks to Ken Liddell for their leadership and achievements during his tenure with Cessnock City Council. Point three is that Council, pursuant to sections 336 and 351 of the Local Government Act 1993, appoints Mr. Peter Crystal to be Council's acting General Manager when Ken Liddell is on leave, and for such person to remain the Council's acting General Manager until the commencement of a new General Manager for a maximum period of up to 12 months, or until further resolution of the Council, whichever occurs first. Provided that if Mr. Crystal is on leave prior to Council appointing a new General Manager or appointing a different acting General Manager, the Mayor, following consultation with the Deputy Mayor, may temporarily appoint one of Council's directors as interim General Manager for the period of such leave. Point four, that Council authorise the Mayor, following consultation with the Deputy Mayor, 4.A, to invite Local Government New South Wales and other suitably experienced external recruitment consultants to submit proposals to assist the Council with the recruitment process to recruit a new General Manager for the Council, and point B, to appoint a suitably experienced external recruitment consultant to assist the Council with the recruitment process to recruit a new General Manager for the Council in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 1993 and consistent with the Office of Local Government's guidelines, and there's a link there online. Point five, that Council, in furtherance to the above and consistent with page 7 of the guidelines, the Council delegates the Mayor the task of ensuring the selection panel is, apologies, sorry, no, I've got that, sorry. The selection panel is established. The General Manager's position description is current and evaluated in terms of salary to reflect the responsibilities of the position. The proposed salary range reflects the responsibilities and duties of the position. The position is advertised according to the requirements of the Act. Information packages are prepared and applicants selected for interview are notified. And point six, the Council have the selection panel referred to above prepare a selection panel report addressing the matters referred to on page 8 of the guidelines, which is to be presented to a future meeting of the Council for consideration. Voting in the closed session was unanimous for the recommendations. Now, I declare the meeting closed at 8:30. All right, thank you everyone.